Hi, everybody. Joe Cioffi here. Weather in 5 days and 5 minutes on this Sunday, the 7th of January. And no Joe and Joe weather show tonight, but we will be back Monday night at 7:35 p.m. as we are going to be looking at the first of two major storms that'll be heading into the Great Lakes. And we'll see from that heavy rains, strong winds, and severe weather for much of the eastern part of the United States. And it's going to start tonight, Monday, back in the plains and in the valley. So that's all coming up tomorrow night on the Joe podcast at 7:05 p.m. Eastern time. And as we check out what's going on right now, as our storm system is sitting just southeast of Cape Cod, beginning to pull away to the east, we'll have a lot of clouds that go all the way back into the Great Lakes because we'll have this upper trough that's lagging here. But we are beginning to see some signs of improvement. Meanwhile, out in the west, in the Rockies and back toward the west coast, see a lot of energy there with cloud cover. And you can also see, and this has been a signature that's shown up a couple of times already, this subtropical jet that is coming out of the Pacific and into the Gulf of Mexico. And that is going to set up with this thing to create a major storm that's going to come out of the southern plains and then head up toward the Great Lakes. And got a situation here that is going to produce some nasty weather over a large portion of the United States. And in fact, if we're going to take a look at this at the moment this afternoon, we still have some winter storm warnings going on in New York State as well as in New England. Those should be coming down as we move through the rest of the afternoon and into the evening as it pulls out. There's still some fairly steady action of precipitation in southeastern New England, back over into eastern Connecticut and eastern Long Island. That is going to be pulling out in short order. New winter storm watches are up for southern Iowa, western Illinois, Missouri, back into Kansas, and they've already put up winter storm warnings up for northern Kansas, much of Nebraska, and into southern parts of South Dakota. And blizzard warnings have now gone up for southwest Kansas, southeast Colorado, and northeastern New Mexico. More winter storm warnings back through New Mexico and southeast Colorado. I'm sorry, southwest Colorado, southeast Utah, and also back into northern Arizona, and new winter storm watches that are up in the Pacific Northwest. So we went from having very little going on from the standpoint of winter weather, and now we have a lot going on. Let's look at the radar as of 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Some heavier precip in southeastern New England as the ocean low begins to develop. So additional accumulating snows are happening right now across Massachusetts, northern Rhode Island, and eastern Connecticut, and also eventually spreading into parts of southeastern Massachusetts. Colder air works its way in, and then the storm pulls away to the east. Snow showers to the west with the upper trough, but you can see that most of the back edge of the precipitation now being at a steady pace across central Long Island, western Connecticut, and points northwards. It's going to take a little time for it to get out of the way. And there's not a whole lot going on today, although we do have some weather back in Arizona, and that's some of that energy that is. All right, let's take a look at some of the highlights here with this next storm. Should emphasize, by the way, there's no problems for uh, Monday. Monday should be a pretty nice day, and it's not really going to be all that cold. That's a plus. Rainfall is going to be a big. Rainfall is going to be a big deal here. So we're talking 2.5 to 3.5 inch rainfall amounts possible from much of Maine through most of New England, down the coast through in Pennsylvania, continuing southward through Virginia and North Carolina, and further south into the Gulf states. We're also going to have some severe weather to deal with the particular system. And the northern edge of this, where you see in Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri, and eventually parts of northern Illinois and in and around the Great Lakes, going to be snow issues there. The Pacific Northwest, as energy continues to come in off the coast of the Pacific Northwest, we have several to many inches uh, indicated there with a couple of weather systems long range and snow in the mountains back up into Idaho and the northern and central Rockies. And WPC, so this is the probability of at least two. Now in the east, we have, because we still have some snow going on at the moment, you can see high probabilities of Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, extending southward into Massachusetts. This is all going to eventually pull out. The new area being indicated here for Nebraska, northeastern Kansas, high probabilities for at least two, and then going northeast from there through northern Missouri into southern Wisconsin, and then back up into the upper lakes. If I that's let me correct this. This is the probability for at least four. This is four, okay, not two. It's and then out to the west, we have high probabilities in the Rockies, particularly up in the northern Rockies, in the Sierra Nevadas as well. A probability for at least 4 inches, and certainly those winter I showed you uh, pretty much match up here with what WP is telling us. So we're going to have at least two major great storms that are going to be heading to the Great Lakes over the next uh, 7 days, and possibly a third one. And let's see. Okay. All right, there we go. Just a little bit of a minor hiccup there with uh, tropical tidbits. Levi Cowan site 99.9% of the time. So here's our low offshore, the east that pulls away. That goes out. Again, not a whole lot of cold air behind it. Here comes the next low into Oklahoma on Monday, spreading rain across East Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas. You see that hook of heavy snow that goes on the northwest side into northern Texas. And then the low is going to take a track northeastward toward the Great Lakes. And then here in the east on Tuesday, this is a very strong high that's going to be out to the east. The pressure gradient gets extremely tight. So Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, we're likely to see wind gusts of 50 to 60 miles an hour at the coast and 40 to 50 miles per hour inland with this. And of course, look at all this tropical moisture. Remember that subtropical jet is going to be feeding into this. It's already setting up on the satellite loop. Uh, Very heavy rains in the southeast with severe weather. That's going to move up the coast Tuesday night into early Wednesday morning. Then as the storm moves away, the winds will shift to the west, and it will stay windy pretty much throughout the day Wednesday, but at least it will be drying out. And then after that goes away, we've got another storm that's going to come out of Texas and head toward the northeast to the Great Lakes. And this is likely to produce another major winter storm and another situation here with heavy rain and gusty winds. Although this looks maybe just a shade less powerful than the one on Tuesday, but it's still a formidable system. Then that's going to be coming up, it looks like, for next weekend. And then after that, we're actually going to get a shot of very cold air that's going to be spreading through much of the United States east of the Rockies. I do want to highlight the severe weather with this. So let's take a look at what SPC, the Storm Prediction Center, is indicating. And for Monday, SPC has an enhanced risk of severe weather along the Gulf Coast from southeast Louisiana to the Florida Panhandle. Marginal risk pushes up into north central Mississippi, the Louisiana-Arkansas state line, and then back into north central Texas. There is tornado risk here. We're talking about a 10% tornado risk along the Gulf Coast. And then as we move on to, this is again for tomorrow and probably later tomorrow and tomorrow night. And then on Tuesday, we have right now already a slight risk of severe weather. Southeasternmost Virginia, down through much of the eastern half of North and South Carolina, the southern half of Georgia, and also extending down through much of the Florida Peninsula. And I would not be surprised if we wind up seeing an enhanced risk added to this. And also, I would just like to show you here on this map. This is the Europeans' view of wind, and the wind is pretty extensive. Up and down the Appalachians, we're looking at gusts of 50 miles an hour or more. The model's even putting out some gusts up into the 60s in parts of the mountains of West Virginia. Also in the mountains of western North Carolina, we're seeing strong winds in southern Georgia, Some of this is going to be convective related and into South and North Carolina as well. So this is for Tuesday afternoon. And then by Tuesday evening, those strong winds begin to move up the coast and the cold front begins to shift eastward. We'll see Pennsylvania and New Jersey, Long Island, areas here being predicted by the model of 60 miles an hour or higher, inland wind gusts of 50 miles an hour. This is at 1 a.m. on Wednesday morning, and at 7 a.m., we're still seeing some strong winds for Long Island and southeastern New England on up into coastal Maine. And during the day on Wednesday, as the winds go to the west, it's liable to be quite windy. A large area of 40-mile-an-hour plus wind gusts from Ohio and West Virginia east across Pennsylvania, south into Virginia, and then over to the east on Long Island, and that'll also again spread to parts of southern New England. So this is going to be a problem here with this particular storm. And remember, in the Northeast, on top of that heavy rain, inland areas have seen a hefty snowfall from this system, and that snow's all going to melt. So you're going to put the 2 inches of rain or more, and then let's put the snow melt in the mix on top of that. So look for flood watches to start going up once we get rid of this storm today. We'll start to see the Weather Service probably putting up flood watches at some point later Tuesday, Wednesday. So don't forget, the Joe and Joe Weather Show is back tomorrow night at 7:35 p.m. to cover this storm and possibly another one going to the Great Lakes for next weekend.